This says, what the hell is going on with Xbox? What is going on?
The, as of now, not so jolly green giant Microsoft Xbox just pink slipped about 9,000 people July 2nd,
Oh, yes, of course.
2025. They axed the long teased Perfect Dark.
Well, economy sucks. Everyone's hurting.
Shuttered the initiative and quietly nudged Rare's decade in the making Everwild into an unmarked grave they've been digging for God knows how long. It is, unfortunately, the bigger and better sequel to last year's carnage when Xbox decided that Hi-Fi Rush, their massive hit, was warranting of closing the studio, and
I don't even know what that is.
was Redfall. There was nothing that really could have been done about forcing a studio that makes immersive sims to make a stupid live service heap of vampire nonsense. Oh, except maybe not forcing them to do that and then complaining when it doesn't work. I mean, that was kind of a built-in ZeniMax problem, but still. Nothing says we believe in the power of our studios like closing them, while Phil Spencer insists he's not retiring anytime soon. The new Xbox strategy looks a lot like, if you can't beat them, publish on their platform. Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, Pentiment, they're all sailing onto Sony's turf, and Hellblade 2 is hot on their heels. Meanwhile, Game Pass is stalled at 35 million subscribers. Not a number to shake a stick at, but
that's a good amount.
Been growing, and it's needed to grow. So Microsoft decided, you know what? Let's start partnering with people to make third-party handhelds. Oh, and they won't play the entire Xbox catalog, just PC games that you don't need Xbox for. Yeah, a lot of head scratching going on. This is a long intro, but in order to set it up, there's a lot to say. It feels like we've been asking this question a lot, but well, hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, we are, again, perhaps more fervently and more seriously asking the question, what the hell is going on with Xbox? Alright, so the last year hasn't been kind to the Xbox brand with the whole Xbox Everywhere initiative and the many concerning rumors that we've been seeing coming out of Microsoft regarding the future of Xbox hardware, but it seemed like things were kind of on the upswing after Xbox strong showing at Summer Game Fest. That positivity has all but evaporated with the devastating news from yesterday I mentioned at the top. You know, over 9,000, yes, over 9,000 people
That's terrible.
employed at Xbox have been laid off. And Microsoft, could you have at least not done the meme? I don't want to laugh about a bunch of people losing their jobs.
Doing the over 9,000 meme is fucking terrible, Microsoft. That's awful.
But multiple studios have been closed for good. Some highly anticipated games have been canceled. Cuts and layoffs are hitting everywhere. Even successful areas like Turn 10, and even studios working on frickin' Call of Duty. It appears that nothing and no one is safe in this major round of firings. Keep in mind, we're talking about the fourth major wave of firing in the last 2 years. Ever since acquiring Activision Blizzard, it has just been a bloodbath for all involved. This latest thing is a step beyond, though. It's not just support staff or QA or redundant management or whatever excuse they came up with for the last ones. This time, Xbox is coming for your job, whether you're in a studio trapped in development hell or in one of their best studios with hits coming out of it. In late June, we actually heard rumblings about potential mass.
Didn't they say, though, that they were, like, removing the positions of middle managers and removing bloat from the gaming industry, and they're not like taking out little people unless it's very different. I don't know for sure.
Calling of jobs here. And on the 2nd of July, the hammer came down. It wasn't just Xbox, it was all of Microsoft. It's about 4% of the entire Microsoft workforce, which is, to be clear, insane. The initiative, the studio formed to work on the Perfect Dark reboot, was entirely shut down. The Perfect Dark reboot has been canceled. I mentioned Rare's Everwild as well, canceled. According to insider sources, the cancellation of Everwild is actually leading to the game's director, Greg Mayles, a 35-year veteran of Rare, who worked on games as far back as Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie, and Viva Pinata, bolting. Just like, you know, if you're doing this, I'm gone. I'm out, guys. I mean, this is just one person among thousands, but I wanted to highlight him because he is an elder statesman of the games industry, and Mayles' exit from Rare is one of the last nails in the coffin for classic Rare. Almost all of the old guard from that studio are just gone, and it's sad to see him go. It's a tough time to be a Rare fan right now, honestly. But you know,
I don't know this game.
It's not just Rare; it's everything Xbox. Even King, the mobile game developer, massive moneymaker for Xbox, is getting like 10% of its studio cut. Raven Software and Sledgehammer are getting hit with some layoffs. A new IP that was going to be a new MMO from the Elder Scrolls Online guys canceled, and that's far from the only thing getting canned at Bethesda. Reportedly, there are multiple unannounced projects that have been canceled. Even John Romero, the influential co-creator of Doom, was not speaking.
Man, come on, just give us a Fallout New Vegas 2, bro, and that's all we need, dude.
Video games, these job losses are brutal, and hearing about all these
literally, that's all they have to do. Give us Fallout New Vegas 2. Doesn't have to be that name. And and you would make so much money. They're not. I don't know why.
Games getting canceled before their time. It's super disheartening.
Maybe they are, and it's under wraps. I hope it wasn't part of the canceled. They would never.
Console wars person. I like me some PlayStation, I like me some Nintendo Switch, and I like me some Xbox. But as such, I am an Xbox fan, and it's hard not to feel like the sky's falling after all this news. So what does Phil Spencer, the head of Microsoft Gaming, do? Why put out a tone-deaf internal message that sounds more like a press release for shareholders than anything meant to address concerns or help with what is, I mean, an absolutely bottom-of-the-barrel morale situation, no doubt. This entire statement is so freaking pathetic. It is pure corpo garbage that inexplicably acknowledges all the job losses while at the same time saying, I recognize that these changes come at a time when we have more players, games, and gaming hours than ever before. Our platform, hardware,
yeah, that is kind of terrible.
Has never looked.
We're doing better than ever before. But you're out. It's fucked up.
Stronger. What the fuck is wrong with you, Phil? I'm sorry to curse, but what is that? What is that? I'll tell you what it is. He's trying to calm investors while addressing the issue for remaining staff, and it just comes off as fake as shit. We've all been willing to give Phil a shot the last few years because things have been tough. I'm not gonna pretend that things are not tough. It's getting harder and harder for anybody out there in them streets, but it's also getting harder and harder to see his run as the leader of Xbox as a freaking disaster. Going from the top of the industry to what is essentially a third-party publisher in just over a decade is something basically only Sega can truly identify with. Like,
well,
the
that's
Genesis
insane.
Was just, I mean, it did what Nintendo don't. And the Xbox 360, yeah, it had some pretty big problems to overcome, but they did right by consumers, and that built the brand in a massive way. It's arguable that the Nintendo Wii won in terms of pure sales, but culturally speaking, the Xbox was the winner, right? Now,
I was always playing
homegrown
360.
Xbox franchise is dead in the water, floundering badly. The division is entirely propped up by their third-party purchases of Bethesda and Activision, and even then, it seems like, at least right now, the purchase of these massive studios is hurting them more than it's helping Xbox. Like, look at how many cuts are being targeted at Bethesda and Activision. It's not just Microsoft stuff here. It's across-the-board gaming division stuff. With how things are going at Microsoft, along with all the reports we're hearing at EA and jobs getting cut there, it's hard not to feel like the bottom is falling out of the U.S. games industry. If this really is the beginning of the end of the U.S. dominating video games, it's at least partially a self-inflicted wound, fueled by reckless consolidation and tech industry greed, buying up everything they can without actually understanding why people buy video games. It's honestly completely infuriating, but it's the narrative that's being built. It's not just the U.S. games industry, honestly. There's reports that video game spending is just down across the board. After COVID, all these
I haven't been spending money on video games at all. What video games are you buying? What games are there to buy?
companies bet on infinite growth. But hey, remember how we were all stuck indoors and the best thing to do with that situation is play video games, and now we aren't all stuck indoors anymore? Oh, there's a shock. Were these people thinking that the disease was going to keep us inside forever? Like, that wasn't the new normal. It was an aberration in human history. That's not how human history works. I know people like 28 years later, but that wouldn't happen, man. Not just the whole zombie aspect of it, but like, they die out. The zombies starve. They can't think. They just do rage shit.
Yeah, true. Zombies would die out, right? And you would think they don't replenish themselves, they don't regenerate, they don't heal. They would just deteriorate over time.
You run out of energy. That's how diseases work. They become less as they spread we don't need to get into it. I just can't fathom the reaction from all these companies that because we're in a pandemic and we're locked down and everybody's playing video games, that's how it's always going to be. I just can't fathom that. There's no set of information that implies that. And yet, geez. And the younger generation is literally getting priced out of their own hobby. Games that casual audiences might actually want, like Perfect Dark, they're not getting made, and Halo is not out of the woods. Who even knows what's going on with 343 right now? I know this is a real downer, but it's pretty hard not to be frustrated with this news. If there's something I can say to counteract the negativity, it's that Xbox isn't dead. All the news that's been dropped the last few days is bad.
Well, that's actually interesting. The Xbox, I don't think Microsoft as a brand is dead, but me, myself, as I have a computer, so if I'm playing on PC, there's almost literally no reason for me to own an Xbox, even though I have a Series X. I bought the Series X before I had a good computer. So I would not buy a Series X, I would just buy a PlayStation, because I can play anything on my Xbox on the computer. So if you own a PC, your Microsoft is fine because they sell computers, that's fine, they like that. But it's not going to be on, it's not, the superior way to play is not on an Xbox.
That doesn't mean it's over. It means there's some major reshuffling going on. They do still have more than 40 games in development.
There's no benefit to having an Xbox, unlike there would be in a PlayStation. The exclusives. You could play the Xbox exclusives on your PC, which is what we should be doing.
One more Xbox console in the future, probably. At least that's what we're hearing. Game Pass isn't going to go away.
And then there are people telling me that they don't want a PC, like they just want a console. It's fine, whatever. I'm not going to... you can all play on whatever you want. But literally a PC is just an Xbox, but better. So if you're going to spend $500 or $450 on an Xbox, you can get a decent... what I would do is, I got my computer used. If you're a gambling person, you want to take that risk, I got a good computer for $400.
35 million subscribers is a lot. It's maybe not the license to print money Xbox and Microsoft.
If you need a beginner level computer, you want something with a 1660 Super or a 2060 or greater. That's a graphics card.
Microsoft hoped it was, but 35 million subscribers is a success. They should hold on to that, because that's, if I'm not mistaken,
I mean, that's
the current
basic for nowadays.
Service that is successful. Like, if there's a Netflix equivalent, it's Game Pass.
People will tell you ideally like 3060 probably.
The news isn't all bad. It's important to keep in mind that even with all these internal issues at Microsoft, they're de facto still the #1 games publisher in the world. That is because they own both Bethesda and Activision, but still Xbox isn't going anywhere. And yeah, it's easy to lay the blame on Phil Spencer, and certainly he does deserve plenty. Sarah Bond, the president of Xbox, and Max Booty, the president of Game Content Studios, they deserve some blame here as well. But I do want to say this, at the end of the day, they are also just cogs in the Microsoft machine. Phil still has to answer to Satya Nadella, the CEO and chairman of Microsoft, and you better believe that it was probably him and not Phil that was pushing for the reduction in staff. Phil's just caping for it. Unfortunately, though, at the end of the day, Xbox is a small portion of Microsoft's frankly massive empire. The successes and failures of that division are just a drop in the bucket compared to the revenue that
it's literally nothing for all of Microsoft.
Humbling reminder of just how seriously the company takes the division, which appears to be not that much. In the past few years under Nadella, it's felt like the sword of Damocles was just hanging over Xbox, waiting to fall. We have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. It's all pure speculation, but it literally just could be that rather than a string of bad decisions. I don't know that I would say it's that, but Phil could have been trying to stave the inevitable off for the past few years, just trying to keep the gaming division division alive when the vultures at Microsoft's other divisions are circling. I want to note that this is possible and probably some of the explanation at bare minimum, but it's also not to say that the Xbox team hasn't made serious blunders. The way they've handled their internal studios like 343 The Coalition and the now closed The Initiative has been a disgrace. Xbox was handed some of the greatest
The Coalition,
ever,
The
like
Initiative.
Halo, Gears of War,
If they
yes,
make another
sorry,
studio,
there was
The
major
Something.
potential there, and they squandered it with poor management. We've been quick to praise Microsoft's hands-off approach to game development in the past, and it's led to some amazing stuff, especially from Obsidian, who are proving to be the MVPs of the entire division lately. Seriously, you know who I haven't had to mention up till this point in the video? Obsidian. That is of note, to say the least. But in the case of other studios management, like of Halo and Gears specifically, maybe a little more hands-on would have been helpful. If they had, maybe the Initiative wouldn't have floundered for nearly 10 years with basically nothing to show for it with Perfect Dark. Like, I'm sorry, but it's not that hard to make a Perfect Dark game. You could literally just reboot it and do the first game's plot with some changes, and I think everybody would be pretty psyched as long as it turned out well. Like, it doesn't even really have to be original as long as it does what it's
I'm tired of
supposed to
shooters.
do and adds enough that it's not just the same
I'm over
game.
shooters.
Like, the Initiative was formed in 2016.
I guess you'd have to do something really interesting to be different.
Compare Microsoft's handling of their studios to someone like Nintendo, who's very hands-on. Some developers buckle under the pressure. Yeah, I've seen reports retro studios really struggle with Nintendo working.
I
on
never
Metroid
played
Prime,
Perfect
but at the end
Dark.
of the day, it's an all-time great game. With Xbox, it's 10 years of nothing followed by cancellation. And that's always been a problem with Xbox to a certain degree. But this slow, gradual transition from major hardware competitors to third-party software developer, publisher, whatever, it's sad to see. Maybe in Microsoft's eyes, this is a more profitable direction to take things, but as a gamer, it feels like the mighty have fallen. It feels like the industry itself, the hobby, not necessarily Xbox.
Oh wait,
but
this is State of
a
Decay.
huge
I actually,
pillar of
this
the
was a
gaming
really good
industry
game.
that is crumbling. I told you, I am not a console wars person. Seeing this happen to a big company that was this successful, which technically has a much bigger company behind it, that
I'm also not a console wars person either. I've said you just played whatever you wanted to play that had the exclusives. That was it. I played Halo. I wanted to play Halo. I played on Xbox. Now the console war is dead. There is no console war, and you just own a computer and you own a PlayStation. There is no war. That's the way to do it.
up until this point has just been willing to fund it to no end. I mean, if you don't see something in those tea leaves, I don't know if you're looking. That doesn't look good. Like, I will say it could be an economic response to the post-COVID dip.
Maybe Xbox will have to focus less on being just the console, more of a developer, and they're not developing enough good games, so they gotta get it together.
And it may eventually even out. Maybe all this doom and gloom around Xbox is unwarranted. Maybe they had to make these moves.
You see,
this is stuff.
Consoles themselves don't make money. They make money selling you the games. They lose money selling you a console. Or break even. They don't make money saying, "Oh yeah, we just sold 1 billion. We sold 1 million consoles. We made $10 million." No, they could have probably actually lost money. But they make money when you're buying the games, buying the subscription, buying Game Pass.
Will end up working out in the future.
Xbox Live.
But as an old-time game bird, someone who's watched this happen to Sega and now is watching it again with Xbox, but now in a completely different economic climate, seeing how things have been going the last few years just really sucks. I don't really care about Microsoft's bottom line. I care about video games. In the case of this situation,
I was talking about that before, like new games coming out. No one even cares. New games aren't even good.
Console and all the amazing games back on the 360, but more and more the division feels less like that Xbox and more just Bethesda and Activision, because they're really doing the lion's share of the game publishing now. Almost all the old stalwarts at Xbox, the games that put the console on the map, they're seemingly dying. I hope that's not the case. I hope Halo comes back bigger and better than ever, but right now that possibility feels very distant. So to answer the question, what the hell is going on in Xbox? Xbox. What the hell is up with Xbox? What the hell is this? Well, a lot of people are getting fired and some highly anticipated games are getting canceled. Unfortunately, the vaporware nature of both Perfect Dark and Everwild means that the cancellations are probably justified. These were probably money holes. That doesn't make it not sting, though. What really sucks is the loss of all these other unnamed games from Bethesda, including a new IP from ZeniMax. It all just looks really bad for Xbox on the whole, but this was the inevitable result of their purchase of Bethesda and Activision. Like, that's how industry stuff works. Jobs are gonna get lost, but I don't know if anybody really predicted how bad this was going to get. The cutting around 50% of the staff at Turn 10, the guys behind Forza, is especially brutal.
Oh, that's not good. I like Forza.
Call of Duty developers like Raven and Sledgehammer. I mean, Call of Duty is basically a license to print money now. Like, that's
Is there a new Forza Horizon game?
It doesn't have any evidence of changing. So if you think anyone would be protected, it would be them. It's a bloodbath across the board, and things might sound really bad. Xbox, unfortunately, whether they deserve to or not, is going to weather the storm. What Xbox is going to be after the storm, I have no idea, but Microsoft is a monolith. They're basically untouchable in the tech space, and at least for now, it seems like
Forza Horizon 6 is not in development.
there's interest in keeping the gaming division alive. Otherwise, it wouldn't be, you know, a percentage of layout. They could just shut the whole damn thing down. I don't know. Maybe in the future, we'll look back and see this as another step in the decline of Xbox that started all the way back in 2013 with that embarrassing Xbox One reveal, or maybe not.
I had that
I hope
Xbox.
things stabilize.
Fun.
Not just for the future of Xbox, but for the future of gaming and the developers and workers that are still with the company. And hell, the developers and workers that aren't with the company anymore. There is a serious problem if Xbox is facing the need to cut at this rate. That has implications beyond if they keep their job at Xbox. Are there going to be jobs elsewhere to get? There's a
No,
lot up
there
in the
won't
air
be.
right now.
There's no
Morale
jobs.
has got to be at rock bottom at the company too. Hopefully things improve for these guys and they're able to make great games, because that's what matters, right? That's what we all hope happens. What do you think? Leave us a comment, let us know. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.
In every single industry, in every single corner of the world, there are people who have control/power who have no clue what the hell they're doing. Literally. That's how you get this. I don't even know. The studio named The Initiative did nothing for 10 years and then they closed down. I don't know. I've never even heard of them. Indie studios might actually be the future. If they're making games with more heart. Because now I feel like they just copy and paste, cookie cutter the same BS over and over. Like I was just saying, Sheed's right. Sports games, it's just like the same game every year. But they might be better off like selling expansions, updates every year, and then maybe every 5 years they make a new one or something. Or if just for the whole console. Because there's no point in buying a new sports game every year. What's gonna change? There's actually there was a video I watched where someone was comparing what you would have to do to go through and get the stuff in a sports game just by playing it without like doing the microtransactions. And it was insane.